All right, what's up, everyone? So this setup is going to be a little bit different, just because I have something I want to share with you guys at the end and kind of have a visual for you all. But I'm essentially doing a Q&A right here. I got a bunch of questions on like my perspective and my side of things. Just a background for anyone that doesn't know me or Sahar. Um, we have been in a mixed relationship, and by mixed I mean mixed race, mixed faith, mixed cultural, etc. And I'll get into that a little bit more later on in this video. But basically, we have been battling the obstacles, and now it's smoothed out a little bit more. But it took us almost 6 years to figure out how to really bring our families together and our cultures and our race and our religion and all that stuff. So for the past 2 years now, we've been helping other couples, kind of navigate that whole journey. And, I wanted to do something fun today that's just my perspective and questions that people may have for like their partner, because they can't really see things. They know the struggles they're going through being the one that's like bringing a partner into a new culture. But there's a whole different side of things, right? Like a lot of times for the guy or for the partner that's coming into the more strict culture or religion or just things of that aspect. So I'm doing a video today, I think maybe for the first time, on mixed love stuff without Sahar. So this is just going to be straight up my opinion and my perspective on things, and I have a bunch of questions on that, and we'll just hang out and talk a little bit. And I actually have not read these questions, so I'm gonna be doing it live with you guys and answering what I can answer and skipping over what I can't. So let's go ahead and see here. All right, I'm gonna start actually from the first person that got a question in. All right, so someone asked, how were you sure Sahar's family wouldn't hate you / disown her in the beginning? That's a good question. And I think the answer is that I wasn't sure. So that was that was a part of the struggle of navigating everything, right? Like, we weren't sure in the long run, especially how things were going to play out. Honestly, at the beginning, like, it kind of felt like they did maybe hate me and they did disapprove of me and things like that. But I think the main key coming from myself is that being solution oriented and knowing that somewhere at some point out there, like, someone else has done this, and just doing it in a certain way with grace and kindness, coming from our side. Because as you guys bringing someone into a race or religion or culture that is not traditionally as open-minded, you guys kind of have a little bit more of the challenges, right? Like, American culture or whatever it may be, UK culture, wherever your partner's from, for the most part, they're a little more open-minded. So I just think from my perspective, you have to go in with patience, right? Like um, long-term vision, and just knowing, because there was no guarantee. There was no guarantee short-term that her parents were going to hate me or disapprove of me or dislike me, and there was no guarantee long-term. So it was really focusing on me and my partner, and just like knowing that in the future, as much as people want to be close to their family and friends and extended family, it's not that big of a problem. Like, me and Sahar, 99% of our time is spent with me and her, and now with Ezra, our son. So it's like a lot of those fears that you build up in your head, even though we still are close to her parents and my siblings and her siblings, you don't really spend that much time around them. So it's just kind of realizing that in your head, that that's not as big as a deal as you would make it. So I hope I answered that question. Like, there really is no guarantee for you. Oh, and the second part, like, that she wouldn't be disowned. Again, you'll never really know until you give it that true shot, and then you can start gauging families' reactions and their words versus their actions and things like that. Because a lot of these parents that we dealt with, helping other couples, 99% of them throw out the disown word. It doesn't happen. We can't say it never happens, because obviously it does, like in past history. But actually, with our students and the way that we help and like guide and navigate stuff, we have yet to have parents actually disown their kid once someone's gotten involved with us. Now, we have had students come to us and been like, hey, my parents have disowned me, how do I repair that relationship? But if someone gets to us before telling their parents about their partner, cross our fingers, knock on wood, we have not had someone be disowned. So again, there's no guarantee, but there's ways you can navigate a little bit better to maybe lessen a reaction like that. Okay, how do you work through family pressures from either side of the family? again, another really good question. How do you work through family pressures from either side of the family? That was a big thing that really comes to y'all's relationship. And I mean, by y'all, I mean you and your partner. It's a big thing that we focus on when we help other students and that we focus on for ourselves. It's like, there is no pressure if you really know, like, your, as a family, y'all's values and like y'all's goals and y'all's rules and your boundaries and things like that. Like, you got to get to a point that, you know, as much as we love our family and our relatives and whatever it may be, like, they are living their life and you're living your life for yourself. So to answer your question, me and Sahar, to be honest with you, now, as far in as we are, we don't feel any pressures from family. They can have whatever opinions they want to have, they can say whatever they want to say, but we've worked so much on ourselves and our relationship that we don't feel those pressures. So at the beginning we did. So again, it's a process of just getting yourself mentally to a point that those pressures don't apply to you. Outside pressures don't apply to you anymore. All right, next question. Any advice for couples whose parents are against the relationship? Yeah, so that's a pretty big question, and it's what we do, right, online. But to give generic advice, you know, I can actually start with what I was going to share with you on this whiteboard. So I want to repeat this question again for everyone. Any advice for couples whose parents are against the relationship? So the first thing I wanted to share with you, right, was number one. I wanted to talk about your parents. Sorry about my ugly handwriting, but this honestly might be the number one problem that all of our couples deal with, even more so than like religion, like religious rules and religious guilt. I think this, from all of our data and all the students we worked with, is actually the biggest problem. And that is a problem because our parents should not be standing in the way of, you know, your kids being happy and their happiness and their success and all that stuff. So a couple things I want to say about your parents. First and foremost, they're at a certain age. The older you get, the more, you know, set in your ways, or some people call it hard-headed, you get. So you, number one thing here, you're not going to change your parents' mind on anything that they have been saying to you, or their beliefs, or their religious beliefs, or, you know, cultural things that they've gone through. Like, they have been through at least 40, 50, 60 years of being programmed a certain way. So the first thing you need to realize is you're not going to change their mind, right? You're not going to change your parents' mind. So you want to get to a point, and this is what we help with, that you respectfully tell them what you want to do with your life and set boundaries and still love them. But sometimes you got to love them from a distance for a little bit, create some space. There's different ways to navigate it. But the main thing, I don't want to get too deep into it right now, is that you are not going to change your parents' minds or opinions. That's the main thing. So if you are trying to go through all this, get that out of your head immediately. You know, you're not going to change their mind on things. We can work on navigating it a little more softly, showing your perspective, things like that. But you will not change your parents' mind. And secondly, a lot of people have a hard time with this culturally, but you don't owe your parents anything at all. Like, healthier parents that realize what they've brought kids into the world for will tell you and realize that they just want happiness and peace and health for their kids. And they'll say that same thing themselves when you really study, like, successful, good parents, is that my kids don't owe me anything. Like, my job was to raise them into a respectful, you know, contributing human to society, a good person, a happy person. So you just have to realize that a lot of our parents, whether their fault or not, they don't have that mindset. They may have grown up in their own bad situations and have been programmed a certain way, and it's not personal. But you just have to realize that you don't owe your parents anything. You don't owe them your life, your happiness, your future, who you marry, what job you have, all that stuff. And again, I don't want to get too deep into it, but those are two things to really realize about your parents. One, you're not going to change their mind, and two, you don't owe your parents anything. Right? Okay, here's a good question. Do you participate in fasting for Ramadan? In what ways have you supported Sahar in this? That's a really good question. So for me personally, so I should just say this off the bat. I've fasted for a long time, going on 12 years, just for health benefits. That's when I feel at my best. It's like mini fasting, I guess. But going through Ramadan, the ways that you support your partner in, interfaith relationships and things like that, it's going to look different for a lot of different people. So like right now, um, if Sahar wants or is fasting, I may take more of the responsibility for Ezra, our son. Um, I definitely don't stand in the way of it. Like whatever she wants to do, please do it. Like I'm not going to stand in the way at all. But those supporting your partner, that conversation kind of comes before, and it's the same way with Sahar. Like if I want to go to, a Christmas program at my mom's church or something, sometimes Sahara comes with me, sometimes she doesn't. Like, there's nothing, right or wrong with that. You talk about how you're going to support your partner through things way before, and that's a huge key in mixed relationships, is that you have to communicate all this stuff far beforehand. So just, there's little things, like how I support Sahara during this time. Like, you can see videos of me wearing pajamas that are, celebrating Eid or Ramadan. I break fast with her and her family. Regardless or not, if I am fasting myself, um, I'll sit down and break fast with them, open up the fast by eating a date and all that stuff. And we just come to an agreement with each other. So I hope that answers your question. That conversation needs to come way before, ahead of time, with your partner. Don't wait until marriage or until you guys are serious. That's the advice I would give on that. Okay, what advice would you have for someone who's just started a mixed religion relationship? Okay, that's a good question. And again, I would tell them to realize number one, which, I talked about it, the whole parents thing. Like, if you can have that realization or that moment in your head where it's like you can kind of change the whole parent narrative, it's huge. It'll change everything that you do. Secondly, I would say, this was number two that I was going to talk about, and this is huge. A lot of people don't want to listen to this just because it's so easy to ignore or focus on other stuff, but this is actually the key to everything. When you're in a mixed relationship, and surprise, surprise, I think I might have missed a letter there, is your relationship. A lot of times when these struggles start coming up and the battles of stresses and anxieties, with religion stuff and family and boundaries and all that stuff, like it's a lot. And it stacks up and piles on people, and everyone, including myself and Sahar at the beginning of our relationship, forget your actual relationship. And this is a huge part of what we share and teach, is just having and prioritizing an amazing relationship. Because think about it, mine and Sahar's timeline before we even got to marriage was 5 or 6 years, and it was slow because we had no one else that does something similar to what we're doing, that we could kind of follow the path and stuff that they did. So we had to figure everything out on our own. We had certain goals we wanted to reach before, blah, blah, blah. So our timeline was very slow. And you can speed it up doing certain things, but the thing is, if you focus on this, the timeline is irrelevant. So if you're wanting to kind of take it slow with your partner and you're okay with the slow approach of getting to know their family over time, coming over when you can, and you curate how y'all want things to look and y'all's timeline, whether you want to be married literally immediately in a year and attack things, or if you're okay with it being 3-4 years. The thing is, that timeline doesn't matter if you get this under check. Like, if y'all's relationship is so solid, there will be a point that none of the obstacles, none of the outside noise, none of the nonsense that comes along with a mixed relationship, especially mixed faith relationship, it will never break y'all up. Like, y'all will be so freaking solid. And that's the thing. Me and Sahar got to a point, we've told the story before, I don't remember how long we were into dating, but we broke up. We broke up because of all the outside noise, and that was our big, like, aha moment. When we came back together after about a month of taking a break, we were sitting there together and we truly realized that we broke up because of the obstacles and the outside noise. We did not break up because our relationship sucked, but we didn't put enough focus on it and make that the true primary focus of what we were doing to keep us pushing through everything. So we had to kind of rearrange and realign things and be like, hey, that's a good thing that we just noticed. Our relationship itself, if we didn't have all the outside noise and obstacles, we would have been married by now. We would have been together. And that's the case for a lot of these mixed relationships. And that's sad to us because a lot of you guys actually do have great relationships, and you actually have better relationships than a lot of traditional people, because you have to work so much harder on your relationship. So just don't forget this. That's number two. Prioritize your relationship. Prioritize your relationship 1,000%, and all the other stuff will be irrelevant in the long run. Okay. Let me see. Hi, I'm Spanish. My girlfriend is Pakistani. How do you approach to her religion and culture? How did her family react? Okay, so we actually have videos telling you kind of our story together and sharing our perspective and sides much longer and more in depth. So I invite you to go watch that video on the same YouTube channel. You can find it. But I'll just very quickly tell you that her family did not react well. We've made that known plenty of times. Like, just for example, her mom would call me that boy. You know, that boy, never say my name. For honestly, probably about 2 years while we were in a relationship. And it's dealing with stuff that's just that silly. And it can be hurtful, but if you flip it around, it's something silly, man. So, yeah, her family did not react well. Her dad, same thing for the first probably year or two. I would come over just to pick her up and be respectful and show my face and things like that and be around them. Her dad wouldn't even look me in the face sometimes when I came over. Like, it was as if I did not exist. So I would just say to you, like, how to approach everything in general, the religion and culture side of things. Just be open-minded, be curious, be respectful. Don't try to change her for who she is. And then when it comes to her family, you gotta block that out, and you gotta be someone that just leads with, love and respect and honor, and just be a good, solid man. And in the long run, like, her family will see that regardless of if they're interacting with you or not. Like, they'll see how happy you make their daughter. They'll see how you treat her kindly and with love, and even how you treat them, like, regardless of how they have treated you. So that would be my advice if you're, just now trying to navigate stuff like that. Okay. Let's see. How did you get her family to approve of you? Again, it's a lot. It's a whole lot. It's a lot of work, but it's simple work. It's just putting it all together. But for us, the big thing was our timeline was slow. So I think, to be honest with you guys, leading up to marriage, I still don't think they approved of me 100%, and that's just my personal opinion. But they were okay with it because they knew I was a good guy. They knew I was very loving of Sahar. They knew I was a family man. At that point, they knew that I was a hard worker and that I had vision and goals. And a lot of that is to Sahar's credit, communicating with them that, I was a hard worker, I had goals, that I wasn't going to take her from her family, things like that. Like, a lot of the work has to come from the person on the other side of things too, to keep that image of your partner way up here with your family and friends. That's another huge part of the relationship stuff. It's just like, always keep your partner up here when it comes to your family. Don't talk bad about them when you're stressed, and because y'all still have arguments and stuff. Don't go vent and talk bad about them to your family, because you already have enough challenges. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. I don't even know what I was answering, to be honest with you. I totally forgot. Oh, how did you get her family to approve of you? Yeah, it was just, for us, because we didn't have an example to follow, it was pretty much just showing my face over a long amount of time. And like I said, I'm not sure they approved of me when I asked for her hand, but they both gave me their blessing. So if that gives you guys any hope, like, they may not have approved, but they gave me their blessing because of the way that I treated their daughter. So that's that. All right. Did you have to adapt/quit something in order to respect your partner's faith? That's a really good question too. So I had it a little bit easier than maybe some other guys out there might, for a couple reasons. One, just because of my journey in wanting to be a healthier person. I personally have always felt that pork just wasn't a healthy food. That pork wasn't a healthy food. So even before I met Sahar, probably 4 or 5 years before I met Sahar, I had made the decision to stop eating pork. I just, I was a basic person trying to be healthier. I was eating chicken, turkey, more Mediterranean diet, stuff like that, like Greek diet. So yeah, I was already done with pork, so that was easy for me. And alcohol, same thing. Unfortunately, alcoholism runs in my family, on both sides of my family, and I saw it growing up with, relatives and this and that, and I made the decision far before that I didn't want to drink alcohol. And to be completely honest with you guys, I think maybe for 2 years, when I was 21 and 22, I experimented with it, but I never got intoxicated or drunk. It wasn't my thing. I would just do it socially, And then I got to a point where I was like, this doesn't do anything for me at all in any way. So again, before I met Sahar, because I met her I think when I was 24, I had already stopped drinking. So um, I had it a little bit easier than some other guys might have it, but I would say that when you're coming into a mixed relationship, you have to be open-minded. You have to be very open-minded from both sides of things. You can't be too controlling. Like we have other couples who their partner, even though they're with a Muslim partner, they have agreed as a couple that like they're okay with their partner still drinking or consuming pork, but maybe they just don't want them to bring it in their household. Things like that. So certain things work, and again, it comes to your relationship and just really knowing what boundaries you want to set, and only worrying about y'all's bubble. Forget everyone else's opinions. Figure out what works for y'all, and that's the true secret and key to everything. 1 second, Sahar just texted me. Okay. Let's get back to this. Where was I? Okay, someone said, did you have a walima? Is this required? Did you and her family split costs for the wedding? Okay, so I can't answer all that stuff because obviously I don't want to put financial information out there if it's not my personal finances. So I won't address that part. The walima part, I will just say this, because me and Sahar like to get this message across to prove a point to you guys, regardless of how we got it done. Whether there was converting or not converting, or walima, or this or that, or this and that. Y'all have to realize that there is a path to getting to marriage and success, regardless of what works for you and your couple. Like, you don't have to do exactly what me and Sahar did. We've been doing this now for 2 years, maybe a little bit more. We have successful couples that have done it in every single way, and we have the resources for that. If you guys aren't familiar, we have a long, in-depth interview with a interfaith imam. He tells you why he does that stuff, why he believes that he can do that type of thing. He will talk to your parents for you. So my point is, we don't share exactly what we did because you can get it done regardless of what you want to happen. If you want your partner to convert, you got to have that conversation with them and figure it out. If you two are okay with being an interfaith family, you can have ceremonies done by an interfaith imam. Literally, whatever your case may be, there is an answer and a solution, and that is literally why me and Sahar do not share exactly what we did, because we want you to see that there's possibilities and success stories, regardless of where you're at in that point and what your decision is. So that's my answer to that for you. All right. Okay, so the same person that asked about quitting something for their partner, they followed up and said, e.g., my partner doesn't eat pork and I do. So how do you find balance without disrespecting her? And again, man, I think you are a guy. I can't see on your picture, but it just comes down to having that conversation with her. Like, forget everyone else and their opinion. Have that conversation with her. And if she tells you that she would like you to stop eating pork, then you have to come back and look at yourself and be like, is pork really that important to me that I would, rather lose a relationship? If it is, and you want to hold on to your food and your pork, then you have that conversation like, hey, I really enjoy eating pork. Is there any type of middle ground that we can find? And like other couples is like, maybe I won't eat pork around you, or I 100% will never eat pork around you and your family, or bring it into our house in the future if we are going to get married. Just finding that common middle ground, if you're not totally willing to remove it from your diet. And again, there's no right or wrong with this stuff in mine and Sahar's opinion. We aren't religious scholars, and that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to tell people what's right or wrong with religion. So we're just helping people with how we know how to help people, and that would be my answer for you. All right. Do you face family pressures to raise children only under Islam? How do you create balance? So I would just say religion in general, of course, because it was such a battle for my side of the family. And when we tell you guys we're interfaith as well, what we're referring to is the more bigger picture is that we brought together my family, who is all Christian, and Sahar's family, who is Muslim. So, of course, because that was a battle for ourselves, right? Like their children, and we had to go through the whole thing. My parents, as a Christian man, of course, they don't want their first idea in their head wouldn't be that I would be with someone outside of the religion. Same for her parents. So again, we have never changed their mind. We have just learned to have hard conversations and set boundaries and expectations And the same goes for with our son. We have set boundaries and expectations, and they are very set. We put our foot down respectfully with our family and our parents. Um, and to all of their credit, they are all very respectful of it. You know, like we just have a rule in our house that if our son is going to know religion and be exposed to it, that his parents are going to do it. You know, we're going to be the ones that show him religion and spirituality. Our parents and our siblings are not allowed to do it. Um, of course, they're allowed to do whatever they do around him because we want him to see that religion is beautiful and that it's good. But they're not allowed to, in a sense, you know, indoctrinate him as a young man, as a baby. Um, but by all means, if you want to pray in front of him, you know, um, things like that, do it. We don't want you to stop being you. And again, this is where I come to it. Like, you have to find what works between you and just learn how to set boundaries and have hard conversations. All right, let's move on. I'm trying to answer these a little bit faster, but these are great questions, so I'm trying not to just, you know, go over them real quick. I'm going to skip some of these because they're pretty much the same thing, just worded a little bit differently. Okay. Nikah is important to my partner. Told him we will do it, but I still consider myself Hindu. Again, that it sounds like your partner is okay with that, and that's great. You guys are far ahead of a lot of other couples that come to us. And I would just say to you and your partner that that is possible. Again, we have an interfaith imam, and we have other resources that if your partner wants to do that and he is okay not having you convert, there is a way to get that done. But you got to have that conversation with your partner. Is he okay with you still being Hindu and moving forward? So you got to kind of figure out what works for you guys, and then there's a solution to that. That's what I would say to that, no matter what you decide about how you want to get married. All right. Was it hard for you to adjust to things for her? Not at all, but I don't want to say. So my answer is not at all, but I don't want to say that thinking that, or to say it and you to think that it shouldn't be hard for your partner, right? Because we're all different. We're all at different points in our life. We've all done different levels of work on ourselves, and I was fortunate enough to do a lot of self-work before I ever met Sahar, and I think that was a huge blessing. Blessing in disguise. It was almost like a head start because a lot of the things that we did deal with between ourselves and all the outside obstacles, I personally don't know if I would have made it through or we would have made it through as a couple had I not had the foundations and just learned some of the things I learned about myself and, you know, being patient and persevering and things like that. So, you know, was it hard for you to adjust to things for her? It wasn't hard to adjust to things for her, and I want to also say that we met in the middle about everything. Like, this is very important for, like, the person that asked. Your partner doesn't have to come to you for everything, and that's probably not what you meant at all, but I still want to get this point across for other people that are watching. Like, make sure you know that your partner doesn't have to come to you and meet everything for you. Like, y'all need to come to a middle ground, and you're going to have to come to him, and he's going to have to come to you, vice versa. Like, everything does not have to be done for you. If you're that type of person, you got to work a little bit on being more open-minded and less controlling and things like that. So, were you two ever secret? If so, was that difficult and how did you deal with it? So, no. And that, again, is credit to Sahar. Mostly because of her past mistakes. She had a relationship before me that was a secret for a very long time, and she told stories before. It's probably on our YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, something, where she kept her last relationship a secret for a long time. I don't remember how long. And it ended up blowing up in her face. So by the time we found each other, that was the first thing that we realized would make things easier for us if, no matter how hard the relationship or the conversation was to start, was that our relationship wasn't going to be a secret. But that's not to say that if your relationship is a secret right now, that there's no way back from it, because there is. Again, we've worked with a lot of couples that we help them introduce their partner that's been a secret and all that stuff to their family and ultimately reach marriage. But I would say, if anyone's watching that is in a very newish relationship, you know, they just met or 1 to 2 months, like I would still consider that pretty new. Try if you can to get that secret out of the way. Because regardless of how long you hold on to it, the conversation is going to suck telling your parents. And the blowback is going to be a lot worse the longer you hold on to that secret. Both from your parents and on your relationship. because secrets in general just suck and they weigh down on people. And there's a quote out there that's like, I'm only as sick as my secrets, and that's what it is. Like, even if it's not a bad secret, like a mixed relationship, it's like when you have a secret, you hold on to so much anxiety and stress and pressure, and that stuff can lead into your physical health and your mental health. So it's a very good quote. Like, I'm only as sick as my secrets. When you hold on to stuff, it's just not good. You gotta talk. You gotta work on finding solutions and all this thing. So, um, but yeah, me and Sahar, we were not a secret. We decided to go about it in a different way. All right, let's skip through some of these. Hold on. Let me refresh. How do I refresh this? Give me a second, guys. Okay, where was I? Okay, what about this one? Did you get any backlash from your own community? No. And that's because, like, so I did get opinions and, um, loving words. It was gone about in a different way from my family, my immediate family, like my mom and my dad. With my mom and my dad, it was a little bit different. I was a little more established and settled into who I am as a person and as a man, that they kind of already respected me and my what I was going to do and things like that. They know I'm, you know, strong-willed and hard-headed sometimes, so of course they gave me their opinions and stuff like that. But it never got to a point of what we dealt with Sahar, to be honest with you. And then as far as like community, no, just because it's so irrelevant to me what anyone thinks that isn't in my personal bubble, like the people that I care for and or provide for or talk to every single day. Um, there's still probably a lot of people out there that are at the church that I attended growing up, or my mom's church friends or stuff like that. That they either don't know that I'm in a relationship that I'm in with my wife, or if they do, they will never and have never said anything to my face. And that's another thing that we talk about a lot of times, like even with the Muslim side of things, with Sahar's like community. We receive a lot of hate on the internet, yes, because of what we do, and we have to publicly put things out there so that we can reach as many people as possible. But to be honest with you guys, no one, zero people have come up to us in person ever and said anything to us disrespectful. Never, 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 never. People might talk and yap and gossip and spread rumors or whatever over the phone or to other people, but again, you got to get to a point in your life and in your mind, like that stuff is so irrelevant in the big scheme of things. So it's a big part of what we do for ourselves and for other students is just getting to that point where everything is irrelevant besides your little circle. So I hope that answers your question. Neither one of us have hardly had any backlash from the community, and it's just because of the way that we have decided to navigate things. Okay, I'll skip that one. A lot of the same stuff, kind of worded differently. Okay, this is a good question, because I think there's a good lesson behind this, or just something I can share. Someone said, do you feel disrespected when your partner speaks about their religion and why it's the right one? So I want to say right, absolutely off the bat, if this is the way that you are, or feel, or speak in a mixed relationship, especially mixed faith, you might want to take a step back and reevaluate if you should actually be in this relationship. And this is absolutely huge, and I'm glad that I could speak to you before you really commit and get into whatever you're going to get into. Because if your partner still has this belief and this way of thinking about religion, that is probably never going to go away. You can have as much hopeful wishing or praying or whatever you may do for it to change in the future, to magically go away, but it's probably not going to. So if you're not with someone who's more open-minded about, a lot of things in a mixed relationship, it's probably not going to work unless you make that aware to your partner and then you guys do a lot of work together. So that's definitely something I don't like to hear. Me and Sahar both don't like to hear. You cannot get into a mixed relationship hoping that, one day your partner is going to change or convert or whatever. Like, it'll eat you alive. It'll eat them alive. Like, it'll show its face in a lot of issues and stresses in the future. Like, it's just not the way to go. So if your partner is telling you that their religion is the right one, this and that, that's great. Like, they have a strong faith, but they shouldn't be in a relationship with someone of a different faith. All right. Most challenging thing being with a Muslim partner. Honestly, now that we're here, I'll answer that from the perspective of where we're at now. Once you, oof, once you get to a certain point, of reaching where you want to go, right now, like where we are in our life, the hardest challenge, you know, I don't think there are any. And it's really cool to say that because there genuinely are no, like, if we have issues nowadays, it's going to be about things in life and married life, work, um, balancing our kid with our relationship, things like that. I guess if I had to answer, it would be just still setting that religious boundary with our parents when it comes to our kids, specifically our one son right now. So we still have to navigate that probably once a month. We gotta remind each other, like, hey, this is our boundary with both of our families. Make sure you are kind of subtly reminding your parents about it. But yeah, I mean, there's just not too much if you do it right and you get ahead of things. All right. My ex is Christian. I'm Muslim. Together for 3 years. He thinks the relationship is doomed. So that's a huge question, and there's a ton to unpack. I would invite you to, get into maybe our membership. Right now, we don't offer one-on-one calls, so we can't work with anyone on their specific situation. But inside our memberships, we are there to talk and exchange communications with people. So there's a whole lot to unpack in that question. I guess I would say your relationship is not doomed because your ex is Christian and you're Muslim. Like, we're a testament to that, and so are all of our successful couples. But again, I don't know all y'all's issues. I don't know what you've been going through, your obstacles, your beliefs, their beliefs, this and that, all the things you deal with your family, this, that. There's a whole lot to deal with, but the thing is, your relationship is not doomed just because, it's a Christian Muslim match. So I would say that to you, and I would say that to your partner. Compromising when it comes to religious differences and having to raise kids. Again, that's a conversation that you need to have way before kids, way before marriage, way before seriously committing to each other, because it's going to look different for everyone. But actually, in our interfaith blueprints of where we talk about all things interfaith, there's 2 or 3 paths that you take with handling kids, and I'll just do this real quick. The first path is no religion at all. They just completely stay away from it, right? The second one is one religion, and this is going to be a conversation between your new partner of agreeing, like, hey, yeah, maybe I'm not as strong in my faith, and I just follow it because I was raised that way, so I'm okay with us getting married and our kid following your religion or our kid following my religion. This will have to be agreed on by you and your partner. The third one is both religions and just religion in general. And personally, what we've researched and figured out that works for us and ourselves, this is the one that we focus on a lot in our family, and that's exposing him to not just the religions that we come from, but religion in general, and just it being a beautiful thing and seeing the positive sides of it, and exposing him to, we do have friends that are Buddhists and Hindu and Jewish, and we want him to see the good and the beauty of all religions, and that includes like the Christian side of my family and the Muslim side of Sahar's family. So again, all 3 of these can work. We know interfaith families that do it all 3 of these ways. But what we help with, our specialty, is going to be number 3. We can kind of show you resources of number 1 and 2 because they do all 3 work. But again, this comes down to a conversation between you and your partner. No one else. Forget your parents. You guys are going to go with no religion and just teaching them to be a good person, a good human being. You're going to go with one. That's fine. You're going to go with both and just exposing them to religion and spirituality and God in general. So that's what I would say about navigating religion with children. Same thing. How do you raise kids in an interfaith family? Um, Someone said, this is very silly, but was not wearing a bikini for Sahar a bother to you? They said, asking for me. Um, that's really funny because I think at the very beginning of our relationship, before I was just exposed to, the culture and like roles and religion and stuff, and we would go to the beach, or maybe when we talked about like future kids and being like, I want my daughter to be able to dress this way, that way if she wants to. Like, I think at the very beginning, it may have bothered me a little bit. It wasn't a problem, I wouldn't say, but it definitely bothered me in a sense where I was like, hey, and it came from a place like, if my wife wants to feel sexy and like a girl and be in her feminine power, like I want her to be able to dress how she wants to dress. If she wants to wear a bikini, like I just I think that was more of it for me. Like I wanted to make sure that it was her decision to dress the way she was dressing, have the rules that she was following, and I wasn't sure at the beginning if it was what she wanted to do. So I think that's where the disagreement came from at the beginning. But again, focusing on a relationship, meeting in the middle, making sure things work for both of you. Like we're at a point where we're both agreed on the way that she dresses and how our future daughter would dress if we ever have a daughter. So to answer that funny question, like bikini or no bikini, like no, whatever my wife wants to do, totally in support of it, love it. She doesn't need to dress any way for me unless she's wanting to do something for me. Hope that makes sense. Okay, winding down here. Do you feel like you had to compromise aspects of your lifestyle to observe Islamic limits? Um, Again, that's going to look different for everybody, but for me personally, no, because I'm very set in my ways, and I know that if I'm, being a good person and I have good intentions, things don't bother me. So if I make my decisions, I'm pretty set in them because I know they're coming from a good place, and I haven't had a whole lot impact me, from coming into a Muslim family, Pakistani family. And if it has impacted me, I've made the decision to be like, okay, hey, I'm willing to do this. So I think it's just being sure of your decisions and who you are and navigating it that way. So I'm very sure in all the decisions I make, where if I am sacrificing for Sahar or doing something like that, like it doesn't bother me after I've made that decision. Or if I decide, hey, I'm not going to do this, again, it also doesn't bother me because I know I'm making the best decision for myself and my family. Let's see here. Hold on, y'all. I accidentally exited out. Oh my god, I'm choking under pressure. Choking under pressure. Okay. Um, how hard was it at first understanding Islam while being with her? It was. It was definitely a challenge because I had never been exposed to it in any way at all. So that would go for anything in life where I'm jumping into a new business, a new sport, a new culture, race, religion, a new hobby. It's always going to be challenging for anyone, you know. Um, so just learning all the rules, understanding that things, if she had certain rules, it wasn't like, um, nothing she did was out of spite to me, or any of the rules she had weren't because she wanted to hurt me or whatever. Like whatever people may believe, you just have to realize, like, open your mind a little bit, try to learn about their religion and their race and their culture, because you're not really going to be able to truly understand unless you do actually try to learn and listen, like with open ears and an open heart. So yeah, to answer your question, um, it was difficult, and even now to this day, we're 7 years in, like I can't remember everything that has to do with her culture and religion. Like sometimes her mom will bring something up in conversation, and later I'm like, hey, what does that mean exactly? Like, what's the deal here? So I'm still learning, and I'll probably forever be learning, and same with Sahar. Um, okay. Did I already answer this? Most difficult aspect of being with someone that's Muslim? Yeah, I did answer that. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to stop right there. And I know I told you guys I wanted to share 3 things with you earlier. I shared number 1 and 2, which were, your parents and your relationship. But the last one I want to share real quick, just forget this, is this is a huge part of everything you do, and that's going to be, you know, your state of mind day to day. And it's super important because, you know, Sahar herself, mainly in our relationship, and a lot of the girls that approach us, their mental health is absolutely shot dealing with, you know, all the mixed relationship stuff. And I think in y'all's culture, a lot, you know, Sahar has communicated this to me. There's not a whole lot of mental health advocacy, or especially like among the older generation and stuff. It might be different now, like with the newer generation coming up. But if I'm wrong in that, I apologize. I don't want to offend anyone or say anything incorrectly. But Sahar has shared with me, and a lot of our students have shared with us, like their mental place. A lot of them are depressed, anxious, nervous, sad, angry, all that stuff. Like every single day, and it's understandable because you know they're being held back from something that ultimately they're not doing anything wrong. Like they're loving someone with their heart, and there's never anything wrong when you're doing something with your heart. Um, the heart will like never lead you incorrectly. So I just want to lead you all with that. Even the partner, like myself, like you have to really be focused on your state of mind day to day and the states that you live in. And what I mean by that is, you know, being optimistic or happy or playful, silly, um, all those things. You have to be very conscious to be that day to day in relationships like this, because if not, you're going to be eaten alive inside of your own mind. And, you know, that's where a lot of people give up. Um, they deal with all the outside crap, and it ends up coming here inside your head. Like, man, that's all it is. Like, I don't want to belittle anything, but everything is in the head. Like, if you weren't, if you lived on a remote island with your mixed love partner, your mixed relationship partner, and you didn't have family, like, their words and beliefs and all that stuff wouldn't get into your mind. So I just want you to realize that, like, it's so important. The fact is, like, that stuff will get into your mind and leak into your mind, and that's why this is even more important. You need to work on it. You got to listen to, you know, a positive and uplifting podcast or whatever, and even if it's not specifically on this topic, like, try to stay around positivity and hang out with more positive people, goal-oriented people. Um, don't have as much conversation with people that are negative and pessimistic, and they don't think your relationship will work, or don't share a lot of information with your parents if they're always negative, and focus on what's going on right here, because that's going to be one of the three keys of having success in your relationship that's mixed, you know, interfaith, interrace, intercultural, etc. Um, is what's going on between the ears. So I just want to leave you guys with that, and I hope this helped, seeing things from my side and my perspective and how I view things, and not only how, you know, the things I went through, but kind of how I think and I look, and just some of the stuff that me and Sahar share and do with all our students. And I would just leave you with that. Like, if you guys have any interest of going through the process that we go through and take our students through, you can find the links below. We have free stuff. We have, you know, low-paying memberships. Sometimes we open up one-on-one coaching. We have a lot of ways to help you guys. So if you're truly serious about, you know, having your mixed relationship work, and not only work, but it being a good, healthy, happy relationship, and, you know, focusing on keeping your family and everyone there and not burning bridges, please work with us in some way. And, you know, again, we have stuff that's free, but just check everything out, and hopefully we'll see you and talk to you in the future. We do talk to our students. We have a texting group in our memberships that we're in regularly. We talk to people. We do live Q&As in some of our memberships. So I just leave it there. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and that you all end up marrying the love of your life. All right, see you later.